another Scraplift Crafternoon. My friends and I pick a layout to Scraplift, ask for permission, and then we each create our own version on video, and we share the hop with you each Sunday afternoon. This week, we are scraplifting Cassie Wiscarson. Cassie, I really hope that I pronounced your last name correctly. If not, I sincerely apologize. Her layout is absolutely sweet. She uses the new Pink Fresh Studios Happy Days collection. I do happen to own all of that collection, but I have decided that I am going to excuse the cat as he gets right in the way. Come on, dude. Oh, well, hello, Jasper. That way. Sorry about that. He thinks he owns the desk and all of the stuff that's on it, and I'm currently using his space. Anyway, as I was saying, I do happen to have all of the Happy Heart collection from Pink Fresh Studio. I am not going to use anything from that collection except the base sheet that Cassie used. And the reason for that is because I didn't feel like trying to recreate the background. Not when I already had access to it. So the rest of it, I will be using my Counterfeit Kit Challenge blog September kit. That is a mouthful. I have Paige Evans' Turn the Page collection in it, as well as a few other bits and pieces. But mostly what I'm going to be using is from the Turn the Page collection. I have a floral from that, and I have some cards from that. These I'm going to use as pieces, as the bits and pieces that you see in her layout. I'm just going to cut them down. I also have a piece of Doodlebug design paper. I don't scrapbook with a whole lot of Doodlebug design product because it's a little cutesy for my taste, but there are some pieces like this one that I absolutely adore. And also an old My Mind's Eye piece. This piece is in my counterfeit kit for the polka dot side. I'm going to be using the stripe side as part of my matting process. Now, I don't have an actual stripe piece left in my counterfeit kit, so I'm going to be using these pieces of washi tape from this book. Specifically, I'm going to use this piece here because it's a scalloped edge, and this stripe, which kind of mimics the stripe on the border strip on this piece of paper, but there's a hole in it, so I can't actually use it unless I figure out a way to cover up that hole and make it look good. But you know, there's this lovely piece of striped washi tape that will go good. It'll go well with this paper. So I will be back in a few minutes and I will start creating. The very first thing I'm going to do is do something off camera, and that is I'm going to adhere my washi tape strips to pieces of white cardstock. I will also mat my photo on white cardstock. Oh, and I also, this is from a previous counterfeit kit, and I noticed Cassie had something like that on her photo. I don't know if hers is digital or not, but this is a Heidi swap frame that I've had in my stash for quite a while, and so I'm always quite happy to use them up whenever I get the chance. This is my beautiful daughter Courtney and her necklace, our cat Smudge. I also have the chipboard frames that I had put into my kit this month. What a happy coincidence that I had 5 frames already in my kit. Didn't have to go digging for them. I got this in the Bramble box this month. I haven't used any of the acrylic, but I thought I would go ahead and dig into this. I've already cut the flare off the bottom and set those aside. Oh, and I found this stamp. It's very close to what Cassie used on her layout. It is a Alli Edwards story stamp. It's from her Celebrate, and I thought that was a happy find as well. I also have these word stamps. She has a stamped label on her layout. This is a half label. and then some words that I will probably use. I believe these are old Studio Calico stamps. Again, I have not been great about labeling my older stuff before taking them and putting them into this method of storage. I have gotten better, but I'm pretty sure both of these are Studio Calico. Anyway, I'll be right back. Like I said, off camera, I went ahead and matted my photo on white cardstock, and I glued down that acetate frame to the front using some quick dry glue. In the end of the video, I had to adhere it with some glue dots in the corners where you couldn't see, because I lifted the frame at the end and decided that I probably should use some glue dots. But I'm going to distress all of the pieces. Now, I'm trying to use up scraps, and this particular piece of cardstock that I cut down to 4 1/4 by 6 1/4 is a piece of cardstock that I cut a square stitch die out last night for a previous layout, and I didn't want to throw it away because it was about the perfect size to mat this photo, and the right color. So I went ahead and roughed up the edges, and I'm going to mat that here on camera for you. I really like how the gray sets out that white frame and that you can really see it. I'm also going to cut the floral piece here, and it is cut down to 4 1/2 by 6 1/2. Now, I get a little fussy with this trimmer because it doesn't have a mark on it for 4 inches, and I have to guess, so it bugs me a little bit. I really need to just toss this trimmer, but I haven't. The yellow dot I cut it down to, I believe, 5 by 7. And I'm going to go ahead and distress the edges on both of these pieces as well. I was really happy to start digging into this floral piece of pattern paper. I had put it in my kit with the thought that I really wanted to use it this month, and I've kind of not had as much time to scrapbook as I normally do because my husband was preparing for a deployment and I wanted to spend as much time as I could with him. So my last 2 counterfeit kits have been set aside and I just haven't dug into them, but I've tried to dig in deep this week since he's been gone and just play a lot. So I'm happy to cut into that white floral piece from Paige Evans' Turn the Page collection. Now, I meant to use the pink and white striped that I had shown at the beginning of the video, but in the end I decided not to because it was making too much matting behind my photo, and I thought I might not have room for the stamping and the frames and the embellishing that I wanted to do. So I am intentionally putting these mats on crooked. So in case you were thinking that I just wasn't paying attention, that was intentional. I'm not making them even. I'm making bits and pieces pop out in different areas. I'm also going to mess with my mini blind here. I was losing light and had the window pane shadows on my workspace, and it was getting to be a little bit annoying, so I'm gonna have to do with a little, what I call the bokeh spots on that upper corner of my page, but again, the light is just not perfect at this point. And so I'm gonna start building my layout without doing any gluing. And here's where I thought that I might use those pocket cards. And now I'm gonna lay out the frames where I want them, and I will put pencil marks, which is not something that you will see me do very often on a layout. I don't like marking on my pattern paper with pencil. I always struggle with getting it erased just so, and anyway, but I do it here because I want to see where I'm stamping and I don't want to have to guess. Now, as I'm playing around with these frames, I'm trying to get them where I want them on the page, trying to do a similar thing that Cassie did with her layout. I don't get it quite perfect, but right now I'm just trying to get those pencil marks on there so that I can get this stamping done. stamp background is bigger than what Cassie used on her layout, so I'm gonna hang it off my acrylic block and just use a portion of it. Now the acrylic block that you see me using is one that I keep a journaling stamp on one side at all times. That stamp does not ever come off my block, so just ignore it. I ink up just the portion of the stamp that I'm going to use, and I just stamp it in those areas that I marked with a pencil so that I get exactly the look that I'm going for. Off camera, I also stamped my half label and my word that I was going to put on my page, and now I'm going to begin adhering bits and pieces to my layout. Again, I adhered those washi strips to white cardstock, mostly for stability, and also because of course washi is semi-transparent and I didn't want a transparent look on this page. I wanted to give you the illusion of that I used pattern paper, although I just used washi tape. I really like this book of washi. Typically I don't like washi like this. They're not ever long enough, but Paige Evans's washi tape book is actually 12-inch, and they're really 12 inches, which is another pet peeve of mine, is when you get a border strip of something and it's not really 12 inches. That bugs me, but these are actually 12 inches and fit right across the top. Now, I have the Creative Memories trimmer. I do not like this trimmer, but I keep it because I have those decorative blades that you see on the back, and I'm going to use it to cut down some of those pocket cards and a piece of cardstock with a scalloped border. Now this piece, I'm actually going to use the scalloped edge. I pull out a piece of that yellow polka dot and I turn it so that I get an inverted scallop instead of both pieces being scalloped up there in my top border. Now I'm going to try to get my chipboard frames placed on the layout where I want them before I glue them down. I originally showed you that I had the two polka dotted frames together in the top, but when I glue them down, I actually put the blue polka dotted one down in the right hand side instead of by the yellow polka dotted one. That's a much better look. So I'm going to start wiggling them around and making sure I get them placed where I want before I glue anything. I did glue the frames down off camera. Didn't figure you really needed to see that, but I'm going to put the glue on the photo, and I use my go-to quick dry glue that I tend to keep a bottle of on hand at all times. This is my favorite liquid glue if I'm wanting it to dry fast. Now if I am wanting to use a glue that's not going to dry as fast, I will use Perfect Paper Adhesive, which takes a little bit longer to dry, but once it's dry, nothing is moving. But for this video, I'm using the quick dry glue. At this point, I am wishing that I had sat and used my trimmer to cut these down. I do not like cutting things with my scissors. I am terrible at it. If I'm trying to get a straight line, I'm okay with fussy cutting, but not getting straight lines. I just do my best here, and I cut down the two of the little phrases that I wanted to use on this page before adhering them to the chipboard frames. I also used my Big Shot to cut those two die cut hearts for the top left hand corner of my page. I just wanted to make a mention of that. I used some of the floral paper for the little heart, and then I didn't want to use the pink and white stripe for the bigger heart because I thought it was too much stripe up there in that top corner. So I had a little mini booklet of Studio Calico prints that I've been meaning to try to use in my die cutting, and I just took a piece of that was pink and dark pink hearts. So off camera, I put my title on the page, but I'm going to do the journaling here, and then I'm going to show you some close-ups of what I've gotten so far, and then at the end you will see the close-ups of my layout with an actual title on it. Have a great Sunday afternoon. Thanks for stopping by my channel. Bye.